let's cross live to Karen Morn now, who's been following the case for us. Karen, hi there. We know that this door is central to the case. Can you just explain to us the two differing versions of how it sustained that damage from the bat?
Well, Oscar Pistorius' version is that he shot first through the door and then bashed it down with the cricket bat after putting his prosthetic legs on so that he could get to Reeva Steenkamp. The defense claims it has experts, including the supervisor of the state's expert, former supervisor of the state's expert, who will say the traces of Pistorius' sock will demonstrate how he attempted to kick open that door with his prosthetic leg before bashing it down. The state, however, insists that he was on his stumps when he bashed the door down. We don't know yet why the state is so insistent on pushing that particular piece of evidence, but we know they already say that the space between the first set of noises heard by witnesses and described as loud and gunshot-like, and the second, which the state says were in fact the gunshots which killed Reeva Steenkamp, was in fact very, very short. And we expect more detail to emerge from the state in the coming weeks when they actually detail their narrative on what happened on that fateful Valentine's Day morning.
Well, how powerful a challenge could the state's case pose to Oscar Pistorius' version of events?
I think that the state is in a very difficult position because its forensic evidence is quite fundamentally compromised, as we've seen in the last few days. But there are elements of the case which are quite challenging for Oscar Pistorius. The most central of that is, of course, the residents three of them who have described how they heard what they say was a woman screaming during the shooting incident. Now, we know that Oscar Pistorius' lawyers have suggested quite powerfully, and they say that they have experts to that effect, that he sounds like a woman when he is anxious and in a state of anxiety. But that version very much contradicts, that state version of the witness evidence very much contradicts Oscar Pistorius' version that he had no idea that Reeva Steenkamp was behind the door when he fired, and it was only when he went into his bedroom and saw that she was not there that he realized that she may have been the victim of his actions.
Well, to come back to this evidence of the door, we saw Colonel Vermeulen on the state appearing a couple of days this week, first for the state, then cross-examined, of course, by Barry Roux. Now we hear another appeal by Barry Roux to bring him back. What are the problems with this door as state evidence?
Well, the defense is now alleging that they found yet another mark on that door, which they believe was caused by the cricket bat and not properly analysed by the state. We know they have their own expert, Roger Dixon, who was in fact Vermeulen's former boss, who will testify for them and says that he supports Pistorius' version of events. We also know that the defense made a very unusual request yesterday for access to Vermeulen's phone records, a sort of tacit suggestion that they believe he may have been consulting with people while not on the stand, which of course in terms of legal criminal law would be quite a profound no-no and would reinforce their suggestion that there appears to be some kind of tailoring of evidence or inappropriate consultation. Vermeulen has agreed to that, and we don't know if and when the defense will introduce those phone records into the record, Joanne.
What can we expect to happen once the case kicks off again on Monday, Karen?
Well, we know that the state still has a number of expert witnesses that they want to call. Most crucially, I think, is perhaps the telephone records experts. Remember, the state saying that, you know, Oscar Pistorius' telephone usage, his iPhone usage, his iPad usage shows that he was not necessarily in a loving relationship as he claimed to be. We also know that the state said in its response to requests for further particulars from the defense that they believed that one of their grounds for saying that this was premeditated murder was that Oscar Pistorius was aggressive, possessive and reckless. Now, we have heard about what the state alleges as evidence of his recklessness, but we haven't really had any evidence about his relationship with Reeva Steenkamp. It'll be interesting to see if next week they attempt to lead some kind of evidence about that, or if that is where it stands and falls, is in those first documents that they furnished the defense with.
Well, that is our wrap of the trial for this past week. Stay tuned for our live coverage during the week here on eNCA.
Know more about your world.
eNCA.com